Financial Survival Network, helping you survive and thrive in the new economy. Go to carrylutz.com and sign up for 30 free micro trainings on financial survival.
This show is now brought to you by Miles Franklin. And when it comes to protecting your wealth, you know there's nothing better than gold and silver. That's what I'm buying. I hope you're doing the same. And once you make the decision to buy gold and silver, there's no better place than Miles Franklin. Look, they've been in business 22 years. And the reason I'm a customer is because when you buy, they ship. Go to milesfranklin.com or call them at 800-822-8080 to get a free quote. 1490 WGCH, this is Kerry Lutz, and you're listening to the Financial Survival Network. Time for another Triple Lutz Report. Well, this week, Paul Ryan, Republican congressman from Wisconsin, put out another budget. And Ryan's reputation is that of being a fiscal hawk. He's in favor of cutting spending and reducing taxation. And while these are laudable and noteworthy goals, the fact is the Republicans are at the opposite end of the spectrum as the Democrats. They're both in favor of redistribution. Ryan's budget does nothing to address that inherent flaw in the system. As long as there's redistribution, as long as income is being forcibly taken from those who earn it, the producers, to those who don't earn it, the recipients, the beneficiaries, the people who are entitled by some measure of morality or some measure of the government's morality to receive those funds without having worked for them, his system is just a matter of not even rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. He's simply rearranging the cushions on the deck chairs of the Titanic until there is a major revision of the system, until there is a recognition of basic economic principles and forces that are always in play, no matter who is in political power. These types of half measures, these types of trying to adapt current budget realities in an effort to balance the budget and secure the financial future of the country are destined to failure. There's a complete failure to recognize here what the problem is. The problem isn't that we're taxing too much and that we're spending too much, although they are certainly symptoms of the underlying endemic problem. No, rather, the problem is that the government believes that your production, your income, is subject to their wants, to their whims, to their whimsy, and that as long as you are making income, you are receiving money from your labor, regardless whether you're working for the government or for private industry. The government believes that it is entitled to first determine how much it's entitled to and then take it from you. And if you don't pay it, if you refuse to pay it, they will put you in jail. So this is the use of force to extract a certain amount of income that the government feels is your just contribution to maintaining what is a completely corrupt and fraudulent system. And right now, they don't even have to tax the full amount because they can simply go to the Federal Reserve, get a check for the difference, add to the deficit, pay interest on that deficit, and go along their merry way. Now, what enables them to do this? Well, number one has to be fraudulent money, fiat dollars. Fiat dollars can be created at the flourish of a pen or a send key on Ben Bernanke's computer. And for those of you not in the know, Ben Bernanke is the head money printer of the United States and the world. He is chairman of the Federal Reserve of the United States. So Ben Bernanke says to Congress, how much do you need this year? Or to the president, whomever, and he simply writes a check for it. And the dollars get created out of thin air. So that's number one. And then number two is that our legislators, our politicians know that it doesn't matter how much money gets collected in taxes, what percentage of your income they take, all the other taxes that are involved, excise taxes, cigarette taxes, motor fuel taxes, you name it. There's a tax on everything. I think there's a mortuary tax so that they get you when you're dying. And then when you're already dead, there's an estate tax and they can get you there. So the point being that they don't even have to worry about how much money comes in the form of taxation anymore. They simply have Uncle Ben, Helicopter Ben Bernanke, write a check, and the government goes on. The problem is this eventually leads to a loss of purchasing power of the dollar and will eventually lead to major inflation, which is one and the same, and perhaps down the road, hyperinflation. So until politicians in Washington address the fact that fake money, fiat dollars, is the ultimate facilitator and catalyst for trade deficits, for budget deficits, and for all the other ills, for redistributionist policies. Until this happens, it doesn't really matter how much the budget cuts or where the cuts come from or anything else. This budget is a fraud like every other budget put forth by Congress. Nothing is going to change. The fact is, the Republicans feel that they must present some alternate budget to the fact that there's been no budget for the past 3 years due to Congress. I don't want to blame parties for it. They're equally guilty. They're both in love with the current system. They would like it to continue on forever and ever, and it will continue on until it doesn't any longer. And that's what I'm really talking about. The system is destined for collapse. It is going to implode. It will implode in a manner that brings down the dollar. It will implode in a manner that costs you your standard of living, your savings, your investments, and your children's futures and your grandchildren's futures. That's the whole problem with debasement of the currency and the belief in Congress that there is a free lunch, that all they have to do is pass their budget or pass expenditure bills and then go over to the Federal Reserve to get the dollars. But this is a misreading of how wealth gets created. They're actually consuming wealth here. They're destroying it. And the end result is going to be a major tragedy for the country, for its middle class, for people who don't see what's coming down the pike and haven't prepared. And there's only one way that you can prepare for this eventuality. And you know what I'm going to say before I'm going to say it. It's gold and silver and hard assets. And we're talking commodities, we're talking food, we're talking things like that. So if you want to protect yourself from this ultimate disaster, the time to do it is now. And while we're at it, the Ryan budget doesn't have a prayer of passing. It's simply a strategic ploy to back the Democrats up against a wall. And to that effect, it'll be successful. But in the final analysis, the deficits are not going to go down. The federal government is not going to discover fiscal sanity. And this game is just going to continue until it ends. So be prepared, because the end is closer than we all think. This is Kerry Lutz, been another Triple Lutz Report, signing off.